Hello everyone, welcome to the Rundown. Thanks to AGL for all your energy needs. Go to agl.com.au. Coming up on today's show, we're going to hear from Ryan Daniels from 7 News and Andrew Embley, of course, West Coast Eagles Premiership player, Norm Smith medalist. Welcome to you both. We are going to find out where we place Josh Kennedy, fresh from 600 AFL goals, in the Eagles' all-time list of greats. Is he top 5? Is he top 10? We'll dissect that in a moment. In the meantime, let's go back to last week. What did you make of the performance against North Melbourne? And may we say, Ryan and myself, Crystal Balder, you Nostradamus it all the way.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, if you had to watch last week's show, you would have realised that everything I said absolutely came true.
You were due.
Which was expected, and just like the result. West Coast were really keen to start well, and that was the key to beating North Melbourne. We know North are a really fast starting team, so West Coast were able to nullify that. They were able to win so much football through the midfielders. Their midfielders really stood up, and then went inside forward 50. JK outstanding. Darling continues his really good form, and we thought on the back of a couple of really tough road trips that North Melbourne had, if that game was going to open up in the second half, you just felt like the wind was taken out of their sail.
Yeah, a really impressive performance. I think it's one of those performances you need to see from a team heading towards September. North came in with a little bit of spunk and a little bit of confidence, but that was quickly squashed. As you said, the start was super important. And now they move on, and we'll talk about it later, but they come up against another team full of confidence and full of spunk, and they've got to shut them down.
There was a thread, wasn't there, last week? We had Barris with 17 spoils, you had Jetta using the ball brilliantly off half-back, you had a midfield dominance, and then you had someone connecting with 7 goals. It really was the consummate performance by West Coast.
I need to mention Willie Rioli, because the game that he played and just the way he was serving that ball on a platter to Kennedy and to Darling and to Waterman, it was wonderful to watch. And some of the ISOs, that we call it on TV, when you just see the actual specifics of where they're kicking from and the tight shot, he's a magician. The stuff that he was doing, I just thought he was fantastic.
7 goals for Josh Kennedy. Great bounce back to form. Andrew Embley had him retired a couple of weeks ago. Let's talk about where he sits. I'm just going back over the tape, mate. You certainly had him on the outer. Where does it go, Wack, in regards to all-time greats? Now, the question I ask you both today, is Josh Kennedy in the all-time top 5 West Coast Eagles? And if not, where does he sit?
Well, he is one of the great West Coast Eagles players to have represented the football club. And I think West Coast are blessed because they've had so many champions. And I'm sure we'll have a chat about it. I haven't got Josh Kennedy in my top 5, unfortunately. I just think he misses out. I've got him in a bracket with guys like Darren Glass and Dean Kep, somewhere between 5 and 8. But for mine, Josh Kennedy, 600 goals, outstanding effort. Not easy to be able to hit the scoreboard in this day and age with all the numbers getting back and how much we rely on defensive pressure. He's been outstanding, but not in my top 5.
Keep your powder dry. I'll get your top 5 in a moment. I know you're still trying to work it out because you arrived late. Let's just go with where you've got him.
Yeah, well, firstly I want to point out Ember's giant pad. He's brought the biggest pad ever for this contest. He's got 400 names on that sheet. He still can't get Kennedy in the top 5. I don't have him in the top 5 either, but I've got him, I'll say he's 6th for me. He's right there on the edge because he has been their best forward. And that's accounting for guys like Peter Sumich, accounting for guys like Brett Heddy, accounting for guys like Jack Darling who are still coming through. He's been the best forward in the club's history. He would start in their best team of all time, and so I've got him at 6.
Okay, 5 to 1. I want you to build 5 up to your best, Andrew Embley.
Okay, so number 5 is Peter Matera.
Whoa!
Yeah, outstanding player. He was an absolute champion.
I know, I'm surprised you've got him at 5.
Okay, I've got him at 5.
That's
Just listen to it. Dean Cox at 4, one of the greatest ruckmans who have ever represented the football club. Chris Judd, I've got him at number 3.
You've lost it.
Juddy at 3. If Juddy had played a little bit longer at the West Coast Eagles, I reckon I might have been able to squeeze him up. But he decided to go to Carlton, so therefore he slips down the order for mine. Number 2, Ben Cousins. And number 1, because I know you'll be watching this, is Glenn Jakovic. And the reason why I say Glenn Jakovic is I consider Wayne Carey to be the greatest player of all time. And when you have a look at the record between Duck and Jacko, if you ask Jacko, Jacko got him and got him a number of times. So for mine, 4-time All-Australian, 4-time best and fairest. He's a wonderful player, and I think for mine, Glenn Jakovic, number 1.
Kennedy outside the top 5 for me. I've got him 6 or 7. My top 5, not dissimilar, the same 5, believe it or not. And I think a lot of people would be down this line. Matera 5, Judd 4, Cousins 3, Cox 2, Jakovic 1 for me. Ryan.
Matera 5 for both of you.
Oh, we
boys.
did, yes.
Matera 5.
No, Jakovic 1.
Well, I don't have Jakovic 1 and I don't have Matera 5. For me, I've got Dean Cox 5, Ben Cousins 4.
Dean Cox 5, the greatest ruckman of all time.
Change the game as a ruckman. Change the
Fifth.
whole
Got him as the
entire
fifth greatest
AFL.
player in the club's history.
You have got no
You've
respect
got the
for
Norm
Dean
Smith
Cox.
medalist for 1990. It might have been the greatest grand final performance we've ever seen.
Yeah.
He changed the game too. Don't you think that the running wingmen these days are all copying Peter Matera? Where do you think Chris Judd learnt to play footy? He watched Peter Matera.
No, he
Very
didn't.
similar. Ben Cousins at 4.
Cousins at 4.
Glenn Jakovic at 3. Chris Judd at 2. He is hands down the best player to have played for the club, but as you pointed out, the longevity wasn't there. Peter Matera is number 1. He's the greatest Eagle of all time, and I'm sure there are thousands of people watching this who are going, finally, some respect for Peter Matera, the greatest Eagle of all time.
What was his versatility like? If he wasn't playing on the wing,
Played off half-back, was an All-Australian off half-back.
Hey, that's where they send players who are on their last legs, mate, to half-back. All right, so there it is. How have you looked at it? Make sure you take a look and write your own 5 and make comment on Facebook and the like. All righty, Jack Darling, we know he's coming with a bullet. All-Australian, yes or no? Will he be in the 40, Ryan Daniels?
He'll be in the 40. When you start to narrow it down to the team, and this is always the hardest thing. The team gets named, everyone goes, oh, so-and-so should have been in, but you have to take somebody out. So when you're looking at the All-Australian team, they're going to have at least 2 key position forwards. For me, Jeremy Cameron and Tom Hawkins are locks. They're going to make it. Tom Hawkins is the best forward in the best team in the competition, and he has had a fantastic season, one of his best in years. And Jeremy Cameron has been the best forward in the game this year. Now, Tom Lynch is making an absolute late charge. Don't forget that he plays for the Richmond Football Club, one of the biggest clubs in the land. That matters to selectors. It shouldn't, but it does. If there's a third tall, I think Jack Darling should be it. I think he should be in the All-Australian team. But don't be surprised if when that team gets named, that your man Glenn Jakovic hasn't argued hard enough to get Jack Darling into the team, the guy who wears his number.
He's played every game this year, Andrew Embley. Jack Darling, 45 goals. But he does only lead Josh Kennedy by half a dozen goals, and Kennedy's played 2 games less. And we wouldn't be talking Josh Kennedy in All-Australian form.
Different positions. Darling gets up a little bit further. Kennedy normally plays a little bit more closer to goal. Kennedy's 7 goals has really bridged that gap on the weekend. But for mine, I think he makes it. But in saying that, you've got to remember that his first probably 7 or 8 games wasn't great.
We were talking about him.
Well, you were talking about dropping him.
I said he
No.
didn't.
Let's clarify. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
You had him
Gone.
on the scrap heap.
Gonskis.
Hey, pull back.
Hold on.
And then you had Kennedy on the scrap heap.
I did not have Kennedy
Mate,
on the scrap heap at
I'm
all. You go get the tape and you show me that vision, mate.
Let's wind back the tape.
Yeah, let's wind back the tape.
To clarify with Darling, I said
He's making up stories now, Timothy.
he doesn't need to go back to the waffle, but he is close. I didn't quite drop him, but I had him hanging by a thread, and guess what happened? Turned his form around. So I'm going to take exactly. I take credit for that. But you're right. His start to the season wasn't All-Australian worthy. If he could combine the start of last year and the end of this year, he'd be an absolute Wayne Carey lock. But I think, based on momentum, the third tall, as I said.
I think there's still a question mark with Jack Darling. His next 4 games, if he can actually kick, 15 goals
Is
in
it
the
him and
next 4
Tom
games
Lynch? It's him and Tom Lynch, right?
for that third spot.
Yeah.
And we know Richmond and Lynch are coming hard really strong. So it's up and about for him, and I think there's a fair chance he may make it.
Oh, sorry, different Josh Kennedy. You're talking about the Sydney Josh Kennedy. Got it right. All righty. Now, right, they're taking on the Blues. And Adam Simpson, very strong yesterday in regards to sending the message that this is a massive danger game. Do not take into account where they sit on the ladder. Carlton are one of the form teams over the last 5 weeks under David Teague. Let's talk about this. What's the strategy to beating Carlton? Emotion's going to play a part. Big crowd, travelling. Carlton are full of steam.
Well, Carlton are playing great football. David Teague's got them just believing in themselves again, and they're playing instinctive footy and they're playing an exciting brand. But West Coast are arguably the best team in the competition, and it's the only way that West Coast get beaten is if they go into this game not fully prepared for Carlton. And I can assure you, and from what we've heard with Adam Simpson and his comments this week, they will be ready for Carlton, and they will respect what Carlton are doing at the moment, but they will match up really well on them. They won't allow Carlton to be able to get their game going. They'll do something with Cripps. They'll be able to nullify, I think, his impact. We can speak about that a little bit later. But I think if West Coast can control the middle of the ground, we know how well they set up behind the football. Shannon Hearn coming back into the side. Their forwards are up and about. I just think overall, mids, backs and forwards, West Coast are too well structured and experienced to be or to allow Carlton to be able to dictate this game.
A stunning 19 contested possessions last week for Patrick Cripps. I think second most in the AFL history since they've been taking that stat. Is he the key? Stop him, you win the game?
To me, he's the best player in the competition this year. He might not win the Brownlow because they haven't won enough games early on, but I just think from a sheer, we need one player to win us a game, I think he's actually at the peak of his powers right now. We've seen it twice. He won him the game last week. He won him the game against Brisbane. He literally wins you games. Luckily for the West Coast Eagles, they have one of the few players in the competition who can go to him and match him. I put Elliot Yeo in the same bracket as Nat Fyfe, Marcus Bontempelli and Patrick Cripps. Those four big bulls, the beasts, and Patrick Dangerfield is probably slightly out of that now. But I think that Elliot Yeo will go to Patrick Cripps and try to nullify and at least even that matchup. If that happens, Carlton cannot win the game. They have to have Patrick Cripps be the clear best on ground.
So can you see Yeo going shoulder to shoulder in the middle of the ground here with Patrick Cripps? And then when Cripps starts to leap forward, that he does get picked up by a Jackson Nelson and or Hutchings if he plays?
But Yeo can also do that too. We've seen Yeo play as a back pretty much through big parts of his career. So that's why the matchup's so great. And also, his versatility, he can be a goal kicker too. So you're almost making Cripps have to work a little bit on the other way.
The one thing with Elliot Yeo, and you spoke about some of those big bulls in the competition, Elliot Yeo defensively has a mindset to defend. That just comes natural to him because he is so strong. He puts pressure on, he tackles. He does that better than all those players that you spoke about. Yes, he was a centre-half back or a half-back flanker All-Australian. He's been an All-Australian through the midfield. He can push forward. He takes big grabs. So he can go with Cripps defensively if Cripps does push forward. Or, for mine, you hand him over. You just allow someone like a Jackson Nelson or a Brad Shepherd to be able to take Cripps forward and allow Elliot Yeo to stay through the midfield.
Elliot Yeo, game 150, and will he be currently leading? We have this debate nearly every 4 weeks on the rundown thanks to AGL, and who is currently leading and can they win the John Worsfold medal to be decided at a gala at the end of the year? Elliot Yeo, Ryan, is he leading it? Is he winning it from now?
He is leading it, in my opinion, back to back to back. And we talked at the start of the show about greatest ever Eagles. If he does that, and he's a premiership player and a multi-All-Australian, you start thinking, geez, is he in the top 5, 6, 7? I think he is leading it. I think my man Brad Shepherd, who I tipped at the start of the year, will be second, and I think Shuey will be third. That's the top 3 for me, with Jack Darling in 4th.
No, I've still got Brad Shepherd leading it. I think that when you have a look at defenders in the past, historically, they get voted really well by playing their role and being consistent. I thought early in the year, maybe the first 4 or 5 games, Elliot Yeo, Luke Shuey probably weren't at their absolute best where Brad Shepherd was, and he was polling votes. And when you have a look at Brad Shepherd's season so far, he continues to get the job done week in, week out.
So what you're saying is that I was right at the start of the year?
No, did I say, who did I say?
Barris.
Tom Barris.
That's right. He was going to win it, so he got injured off the stadium turf. Oh, jeez. I think I've got Brad Shepherd winning at the moment. I think Elliot Yeo would be in the conversation, but maybe second or third.
Yeah, same here. Shepherd, Yeo and Darling for me for what it's worth. All righty, let's dissect really quickly why they win the game against Carlton, Ryan Daniels.
I just think they are the better side. I think if Yeo does nullify Cripps a little bit and just even that matchup, I think they'll be fine. The one to watch for Carlton too, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, but is Levi Casbolt. His 3 weeks has been phenomenal. Probably the best 3-week stretch of his career. So they really need to watch him around the grounds. He's been quite powerful. So that's something for Tom Hickey to look after when he goes into the middle. So I think West Coast do it quite easily, assuming that Yeo can match it with Paddy Cripps.
West Coast will do this game. No problem at all. They, as I said, will prepare for the Carlton Blues. But you just cannot see Carlton whilst they're playing some good football at the moment. They're up and about. They just got no chance of beating West Coast. West Coast are a far superior team than them.
That's why you're the experts. Well played by you. That completes the rundown. Thanks to AGL for all your energy needs. Go to agl.com.au. Ryan Daniels from 7 News. Good luck to you over the weekend. And we've just heard from the Carlton restaurant on Lygon Street, and they do want their tablecloth back, Andrew Embley. That is all. We'll do it again next week. May the best team win. That's going to be the Eagles against Carlton.